Guys, we're going to keep it pretty positive despite the fact that we saw a lot of messy football last night, and this is the second time I'm recording this video because Clip Champs keeps crashing. Microsoft, I hate you. We will be back tonight, hopefully with a video on the Hollywood Brown injury. So I've got 5 thoughts to kick this off, and then we will go position by position. I will have a thoughts on kickoffs video coming tomorrow, probably as a late video. Here's where we really need to start this conversation. This was sloppy football. This was unfocused football. This was football that we are not used to seeing from Andy Reid football teams, but it's not football that we have not seen from Andy Reid football teams. This pops up once in a while. I believe it was 2019 it popped up, 2021 I think it popped up, and it's something that's fixable. This team can be better than we saw last night. Last night was sloppy. Last night was unfocused. Last night was football that was sort of all over the place. I think that it's going to be a tough week in training camp for this team. I think that Andy Reid was probably very upset on the bus ride to the airport. But I don't think that this is what this team is going to be. And there's no need to overreact to the number 1 preseason game. I understand that much. But if what happened last night, that was not bad players. That was bad football. That was assignment unsound football. And if you really watch things, it's sort of a cavalcade of whimsy, because it seems that it is one guy doing something wrong here, that play is dead. One guy doing one thing wrong there, that play is dead. There was only one really bad pairing of players that I was able to find thus far in studying this tape, and we'll get to that in a moment. Here's what I would be willing to bet. We're going to see some cuts during this week. What the cuts will be is probably players that are not 53 roster candidate guys. They're going to be players that are probably not practice squad guys. But what it's going to do is it's going to send a message to this team that, we understand that you weren't focused, and we're going to bring in some players who might be. So if you are still here, you had better be focused by next week, because, hey, we don't have to wait until cut day to get rid of you. I think we are likely to see that. We have seen Brett Veach already move on from a couple of guys this preseason, one of whom, Trey Dean, I really thought was going to be a guaranteed thing for the 53, let alone the practice squad. Now, this season will go one of 2 ways. I am still of the opinion that this is a team that can make the Super Bowl. Obviously, I am still of that opinion. I am saying there's no need to overreact to what we saw. That said, there was sloppy football with the first stringers. There was sloppy football with the second stringers. There was sloppy football in the third and the fourth quarter. So, wow, a lot of sloppy football. But you can absolutely come back from that. Like I said, the Chiefs did it, I believe it was 2019 and 2021, where there was just some real sloppy football going on the field on Sundays, and eventually the team got together and obviously made the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. I don't remember which season it was that we just saw a whole lot of sloppy football, but I believe it was a Super Bowl season. Or, if this does not get fixed, this could be the first time in a long time the Chiefs have underperformed. I don't foresee that happening. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes will let the offense stay sloppy, let alone Andy Reid. And the defense was sloppy as well. So we will see what happens there. Now, on to the position-by-position breakdowns. Chris Oladokun, I believe, will be the third quarterback. I was not so sure of that yesterday. Chris Oladokun has problems with placement. Ian Book has more accuracy in that department. However, I believe that Ian Book fell into the same trap that got Shane Buechele cut last year. If you're the guy that's in there in the third and fourth quarter, you're not trying to make plays. If you're the quarterback in the third and fourth quarter for the Chiefs and it is a pass play called, you had better throw the ball. You're giving your offensive linemen the opportunity to pass set. You're giving your wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs the opportunity to catch the ball. This is not the Ian Book show. This was not the Shane Buechele show. I think that is ultimately what got Shane Buechele moved on from last season. He was the most effective quarterback in the preseason after Patrick Mahomes last year, maybe including Patrick Mahomes in the preseason last year, and it didn't matter. I thought that surely Shane Buechele has become the third and maybe threatening the number 2 guy because he was effective on the football field. But that's not, I guess, what they're looking for when you're out there in the preseason. Everybody needs to get their work on their stuffs. On the offensive line, this is the pairing I was talking about earlier. Hunter Nourzad and Chuck Godric equals danger. A lot of times on the offensive line, when I was watching individual players, I could not figure out where the breakdown was. And I'm not offensive line guy, right? I don't have those accolades to my name, but a lot of times I can figure out kind of what happened. When Hunter Nourzad and Chuck Godric were out there together, it was just bad between the two of them. I'm not sure if it was a chemistry, a communication, or a skill thing, but Chuck looked like, so Chuck got a lot of reps, I believe. I was looking for Wanya Morris all night. I did not know that Wanya Morris was not going to play. So Chuck, I thought, looked like an NFL guy. Okay, that was wrong. He looked like a football player in the way that Louis Rees-Zammit does not look like a football player, right? Louis Rees-Zammit hunches over sort of when he has the ball. I'm assuming that is a rugby thing because in football, that's going to get you spinal problems. But he does not look comfortable on the football field. Chuck Godric does look more comfortable on the football field. Hunter Nourzad was an interesting case because there were times where he looked very mobile. There were times where he looked pretty strong. And there were times where he just got his lunch eaten. I don't know if it looked like it might have been a leverage issue because of the way that he was getting pushed back. Hopefully he can fix that. There were times where Hunter Nourzad looked like the guy you thought he was going to be, and there were times where he looked like he was not a draftable player. Speaking of not drafted, Mike Caliendo is not a starter. I do think Mike Caliendo is still an NFL guy. I think that the Chiefs would be doing well for themselves to find a different second string guy than Mike Caliendo. Mike Caliendo is serviceable, but I think you want to not have to have him on the field. He's a guy that's not going to embarrass the football team. I don't think he's a guy you want out there. Again, the note there that Chuck played a lot and he needed it. I believe he played both tackle positions last night. So do they have him as if you have him able to play both tackle positions, you have Kingsley, you have Jawan, you have Wanya Morris, who is a swing tackle, and then I think you could get away if you trust Chuck on the field, having just 4 guys that can play tackle. Lucas Niang, I don't know if you want him on the left side. Lucas Niang does kind of look the same despite having not really played any football for like 5 years now, but he does look the same. He does have dancing bear syndrome, which is basically, I don't know how your little legs can hold up that belly and you still move like you do, but he's still able to move around. He buckles at the knees. It just looks uncomfortable. I don't understand it, but he's effective in doing it. Speaking of knees, I believe that we got confirmation on McCade Medower having torn his ACL. Now, obviously, this is a bad thing. Obviously, this isn't great. Obviously, you hate to see this. There are silver linings to this. So, number one, I don't think McCade Medower was going to be a 53-man roster guy. I don't think McCade Medower was going to be a practice squad guy this season. I believe that if he tore his ACL, he's on injured reserve. I believe that he gets to stay in the facility. It seemed like that was what was going on with Justin Ross a couple years ago, that he was able to stay in the facility. He was able to still learn the pro game from the playbook. I believe. I might be wrong on that. Number two, for McCade Medower, the upside is this. This used to be a 1-year injury. I am old enough to remember when if you had a torn ACL, you were out for an entire calendar year from where you tore it. It is no longer. It seems to be a 6 to 9 month thing, depending on the guy. We have seen people come back in that amount of time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 6 months we've seen. Tearing his ACL now means that by the time he's ready to go, he will be ready to go for a 90-man roster, which he's going to need. He's going to be ready to go for a team, maybe it's the Chiefs, maybe it's not, for a team signing players heading into training camp. He's going to need all of that time. So there's that. For the Chiefs, the silver lining to this is that's a roster spot. You have 90 roster spots. This is a guy who was not going to make the 53, was probably not going to make the practice squad, in my opinion. You don't have to wait till cut down day to move on. It's a rough business. It's hard to say it that way, but I think that if this was going to happen, it is better for all parties involved that it happens now, right? I think we can all agree on that. If this was going to happen, this is the best time for it to happen. At wide receiver, has Nico Remigio been wearing 81 all camp? Have I just not noticed that? In my mind, he's still wearing 27. So Nico Remigio was an interesting case in this game. First off, the fumble was a fumble. It was a fumble. That was a fumble if you ask me. So what we saw, though, in the aftermath of that, so number one, it was a fumble. Number two, he dove for the ball. He did not have to leave his feet to make that catch. I talked a little bit a couple weeks ago, I think, that Nico Remigio is catch-first kind of guy. He's the guy who's going to make the catch and then worry about run after the catch, which is, it's a good floor. It's a high floor. Because the catch is the first thing you have to do, right? Kadarius Toney taught us all about that last year. If you don't make the catch, you can't run with it anyway. If you sell out for the catch, leave your feet, cradle it in your body, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to miss a lot of run after the catch opportunities. What he had done was he sold out for the catch, discombobulated himself on the way up, and then lost the football. What was promising was that Andy Reid did what he does for players in whom he believes. The very next play, I believe, was an end around to Nico Remigio. put the ball right back in his hands. It was just a 3-yard run. It was nothing special, but it was Andy Reid saying, look, I've got your back. Calm down. Don't put the ball on the floor again. That was kind of what those are for Andy Reid. He had 3 receptions for 35 yards, 1 run for 3 yards. That is 4 touches for Nico Remigio. I think he was getting open fairly regularly. Just from watching the film the way I did, from watching plays the number of times that I did, I think he did well in that department, getting open. I think with the Hollywood Brown injury, you pair that with the fact that Xavier Worthy, another one of the wide receivers, is only 165 pounds, despite the fact that he seems to be a really tough guy. Injuries are going to be a concern when you weigh 165 pounds in the NFL. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have to carry 7 wide receivers into the season, which is going to make things kind of interesting at a few other positions. Those 2 other positions are going to be the next 2 on this list, but we're going to get to Justin Ross first. Again, with all of these injuries, Kadarius Toney, injured. Hollywood Brown, injured. It appears to be a several weeks injury. The injury concerns with a guy who weighs 112 pounds. Justin Watson has already been injured this season. I think you have to keep Justin Ross. Justin Ross has injury concerns of his own, but he's the only great big-bodied wide receiver that you have. Rashee Rice is a bully ball wide receiver. He's not a great big guy. Justin Ross so Rashee Rice does not have the target area that does Justin Ross. Justin Ross routinely makes one-handed catches. Justin Ross is able to moss players. I think you have to have this size option for the Kansas City Chiefs when you are composing this roster with these players. I think you have to keep Justin Ross. I think you have to keep Nico Remigio. So Nico Remigio, just to go back quickly, I don't remember if it was a 3rd down or a 4th down, but it was a 3rd and 4 or a 4th and 4. And Nico Remigio ran a quick crossing route, converted the down. That, I believe, from watching the play, was called for Nico Remigio. It was not just, okay, here's 4 routes, pick it out. It was, this is the guy you need to go to, make it happen. Nico Remigio made the catch. Nico Remigio converted the down. Justin Ross got his Moss-like reception on a scrambled drill. When a quarterback is scrambling, what they're saying is, who am I going to throw to? I have to get this ball out of my hands. I trust Justin Ross. And he proved you right. Those 2 guys, I think, are going to make this roster because can you do that with Sky Moore? I don't know. Can you do that with Kadarius Toney? Almost assuredly not. Can you do that with Mecole Hardman? You did it in the Super Bowl. You did it in the Super Bowl with Sky Moore the year before. You did it in the Super Bowl with Mecole Hardman last year. It makes me nervous to say yes on either of those players. So on either Mecole Hardman or Sky Moore. Kadarius Toney, I don't think it makes anyone nervous to say no. No, you can't trust him for that. So that's what it is at the wide receiver position. Carson at running back. Carson Allstott Steele, 4 carries, 29 yards, 1 touchdown. When you start making this roster and you're trying to figure out where you're going to cut in order to have 7 wide receivers on the roster, on the 53, man, Deneric Prince didn't do a whole lot special. Deneric Prince should have looked better out there. When you start looking at the measurables, when you start looking at the times, things like that, the tools. Should have looked a whole lot better out there. I still think Deneric Prince is going to be a Kansas City Chief this year. Carson Steele, in my opinion, is almost definitely going to be a Kansas City Chief this year. That means you have to carry 4 guys at the running back / fullback position, which means you might not be carrying 4 tight ends, which means you might be carrying 9 offensive linemen. So versatility from someone like Wanya Morris is going to be absolutely supreme. At tight end, Jared Wiley, you have to hang on to the ball. I don't know what this is with the Chiefs uniform. Somehow, a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, who's bigger than Tyreek Hill, looks the same size as Tyreek Hill in these Chiefs jerseys. Somehow, a guy who's as big as Jared Wiley looks like a wide receiver in these Chiefs jerseys. I don't get it. Wiley, I thought, had a mixed bag of a night, which is not unusual for a guy who's going to be coming into his first NFL action. So I am cooling on the Jared Wiley will definitely be the number 2 tight end talk. I think that by the end of the season, that's where he will be. Moving on to the defense at cornerback, Nick Jones had a rough night, I thought. Nick Jones, so first off, he had a PBU in the end zone. That was pass interference. That's going to get called 9 times out of 10 as pass interference in the NFL. Didn't get called. Good for Nick Jones. That was pass interference. He looks lost after 10 yards. I talked a little bit a couple days ago, yesterday, about how last season he was the 5th cornerback. He was number 5 on the depth chart. That's how he made it into the regular season. This year, in the number 1 depth chart of the season heading into the first preseason game, he was the 9th cornerback on the depth chart. That is a precipitous fall for Nick Jones. I thought that Nick Jones did not look bad last year. I thought that we're going to get to this again with the very next player, but it looked like there was regression with Nick Jones. He looked absolutely lost at times on the field. So not sure what's going on there, but I don't think you can afford to have him on the field playing as he's playing. Joshua Williams as well looks to have regressed to me. Joshua Williams, the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, were looking for Joshua Williams to really assume that number 2 cornerback role for the Chiefs this season. Didn't look like it to me last night. I hate to say it, because I don't think that this happens in the preseason. I don't think you're game planning like this in the preseason, but maybe you do when it's the Chiefs coming to town. It looked like he was being picked on. We've had a lot of bad corners in Kansas City. You know those games where a guy is being targeted because, hey, he's on the field. Phillip gains it up there, baby. That's what it seemed like last night with Joshua Williams. Now, I still believe that Jalen Watson is the number 2 cornerback on this football team. Jalen Watson looks like a number 2 cornerback to me. Jalen Watson has won 2 games for the Kansas City Chiefs, a 99-yard pick 6 against the Chargers, and the interception to seal the game versus the Jaguars in the playoffs. That's number 2 corner type stuff. Jalen Watson has the size. Jalen Watson has the speed. Jalen Watson has the swagger to do that. We just haven't seen him this preseason. I think that Joshua Williams can be a number 3 cornerback. I have not seen it from Joshua Williams as far as being the man. I think a lot of people were assuming that he would be that guy coming into this season. Maybe I'm wrong. I have not seen that from. I've seen Joshua Williams be a legitimate NFL cornerback. Absolutely. I haven't seen that type of stuff from him, but I could be wrong. See here, Miles Battle looks light years ahead of where I thought he would be. He looked physical. He was good at run support in college. He looked to really be good at run support in the NFL last night. I still think he's probably a practice squad guy, but I think he's a practice squad guy that will be a Sunday guy. I think he's a practice squad guy that will be a 53 guy. At safety, Jared Hicks is for real. He will be necessary in the absence of Justin Reed because Chamari Connor looked suspect versus the run last night. Chamari Connor is another one of these players in the secondary that looks to have taken a step back from where I thought they looked last year. So maybe it was just a bad night. Maybe I'm reading too much into things. Maybe I am confusing what these players were being expected to do, but it looked like Chamari Connor took a bit of a step back. That starting defense did not look like... Obviously, they're losing L'Jarius Sneed, right? It looks like they're feeling it right now. Also at safety, Christian Roland Wallace is an NFL player. There were a lot of people that had a draftable grade on him coming out of college. He did not get drafted, and so the Kansas City Chiefs picked him up, and he looks like an NFL guy. I don't know if he's going to be with the Chiefs. I don't know if it's going to be this season. I don't know if he's going to make the practice squad for the Chiefs this year, but I think that he's going to have a future in the NFL. At linebacker, Leo Chanel in the A-gap makes for a happy, scrambling armchair. The Kansas City Chiefs look like they're going to be aggressive with their linebackers this season. They might be doing this because they don't think they have a number 2 cornerback. So we will have to wait and see there, but they look like they're going to be very good. Jack Cochran is not an embarrassment. That might not seem like a compliment, but I promise it is. Jack Cochran was a UDFA from a small school, so to be doing as well as he is definitely a good thing. At defensive end, FAU looks to have a more well-rounded repertoire, but he doesn't look like he knows how to use it yet. I think his ceiling is Mike Dana still, but I still don't think he's there yet. He played a lot of reps last night, and he needed it. I don't think this was, hey, we don't have someone else to put on the field right now. I think that they were putting FAU on the field because he needed those reps. Malik Herring. I would give Malik Herring time over FAU right now. Absolutely, I would. That's just where I'm at with it. At defensive tackle, one thing that I didn't note here, but Fabian Levette, I was expecting more from last night, didn't get a whole lot. Not sure if I was missing him on the field sometimes. I didn't see him on the field a whole lot. Neil Farrell is a huge human being. He looks to be more active than he was last season, but I am not sure if he looks better than he was last season. We didn't see a whole lot of Neil Farrell last year. So little, in fact, that I'm not sure if he's gained weight or if this is just what he looks like, right? So I think that Neil Farrell and Fabian Levette are NFL guys, so just by a product of that, the Chiefs have a deeper defensive tackle position than they had last year. Matt Dickerson played quite a bit for the Chiefs last year. I don't think he's going to this season. So is a step up and a step in the right direction a step enough? I'm not sure. That is all I have for this video. Again, I will be back later tonight with a video on Hollywood Brown. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, so consider hitting the subscribe button because I'd love to have you back for the next one.